Bitcoin hoodie guy back with another KASPA video. It's over 11 cents. For how long, I don't know. You can see right here, it's climbing up a little bit, 11.4 cents, 11.6 cents. So it's fluctuating. Not going to get too high when the price goes up, not going to get too low. When it goes down, you can see still number 2 there in hash, not the hash rate, but the 24-hour profitability, or at least revenue generated by miners, up over 1.4 million. And then you can see the hash rate is looking pretty good. Some people think that that growing hash rate is causing the price to go down because people are bought the expensive computers and now they're selling KASPA in order to pay for those computers. So you can go here. There was one less pump back, and I think that was the second MEXC wallet. So MEXC had the number 2 wallet, and then there was another MEXC wallet that's even, this MEXC wallet was up in the top 10 for a while, then it fell down. But I had FSJ comment on the video I made this morning asking what I thought about this video. The government wants to steal Grayscale's 600,000 Bitcoin. Your friend Somi. I've never watched this video, but I checked it out. And so yeah, he's basically talking about how the Grayscale is going to be the backup plan for the United States. And if you look at gold and everything like that, and then the fact that like people in Australia's Commonwealth Bank will partially restrict payments to crypto exchanges, limiting how much people can do in a month or 24-hour time period. So controlling, making it more difficult for people to buy crypto. Also, he thinks that they'll be manipulating it. So he doesn't see that the Bitcoin ETF might be a big explosion. It seemed like his general thesis at the end is buy crypto while you can, because they're going to make it harder to get there. And it seems like he likes Pulse Chain and Hex and that ecosystem. And he thinks there's altcoins that can outperform Bitcoin. And he doesn't think that, he thinks it'll be like a Trojan horse, that they'll come in on that. He's not, at least from what I gathered in the video, he's not saying exactly when they will, if they have a plan, whether they'll enact it. There's even Bitcoin maximalists. So some of this, like, you might not happen even this year, or maybe at the end of the bull run, or maybe even after that. So if something like that did happen, but let's just take a look real quick. And so KASPA is about to skyrocket. Alex Richardson, thanks for tuning in. Hodl Dom, 10 blocks per second soon. Hoodie, yep, pumping right now. KASPA is better than drip. Yep. And so it's kind of going up right now. I was just taking a quick look. If you happen to tune in, let's see. Yeah, the price is looking pretty good right now. Over about 11.5 cents. Just going to talk about this video here a little bit. The government wants to steal Grayscale $600,000 Bitcoin. And there's obviously articles about Forbes about BlackRock will ruin Bitcoin. So the idea that somehow the Forbes, BlackRock will completely destroy Bitcoin. And so no one truly knows what's going to happen in the future. But in terms of, back in 1917, or the Emergency Banking Act, when was that? 1933, when they made it so that you couldn't own gold and you had to sell your gold, besides maybe some small jewelry, to the United States. And then they went on the gold standard. And then once Richard Nixon took us off that in 1971, we've seen massive inflation. But you can also see that, some people are thinking gold soared 300% after first ETF approval. Will Bitcoin follow? And so this is the chart showing where Bitcoin was at before, or where gold was at, and then the ETF followed. And so when you look at the overall gold chart, it's obviously went up a lot. And before we look at that, here's a video KASPA has on their Twitter account. I've seen it on the YouTube account. I saw it on Twitter. It's merchant accepting KASPA in Kenya. I also saw somewhere else where someone was in a cafe. This is a store, and then I saw someone in a cafe that was accepting it as well. And so now everyone's wondering exactly what's going to happen. Personally, I think that they're going to need a lot. So you have Grayscale, you have Bitcoin, or BlackRock, you're going to have Fidelity, ARK Invest, or, there's going to be multiple ETFs, and all the money, the 45% of the liquidity in is in the United States in terms of the capital market. And so the ETFs in the United States are the most important. And to me, it feels like that there's just not going to be enough Bitcoin to go around, and there might be better ways for big dogs to short it. But at the end of the day, and then if you have any countries start to competing, if China is trying to get Hong Kong to list ETFs so they can compete, China's got the second biggest capital market, and the United States is 4 times bigger than that. And so I do think that, is it possible that they try to ban self custody of crypto? I do think that's possible. I think this run, it's not going to happen in the United States, where the capital markets are most important. It takes time for those laws to come. And as far as in kind versus cash, the average person's not going to buy Bitcoin and send it to the ETF to get shares in the ETF. That's something a big company would do. So for the average person, whether it's in kind or cash, isn't that big a deal, because you're talking about big companies that don't even really want to have custody of it. They just want to get access to it. Where people like us want to have our crypto in our wallet, not your keys, not your crypto. So I personally think it's going to be a good year, but I don't know the future. I think that there's not enough Bitcoin to go around. I think a lot of liquidity is going to come into Bitcoin. And then I think that when there's profits made, that liquidity is going to filter down. I think that the doors could be closing in, but, I don't think that, I think we still have time. And I think that maybe someday they try to make it so you can't own Bitcoin. I don't feel like it's there yet. I don't think it's going to happen in this bull run. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of liquidity. There's a lot of people. You've already can see Hashdex. You can see Bitwise. There's already a lot of people competing for this ETF money. And I think that, obviously the U.S. government wants to keep the dollar as strong as possible, but there's only so much that they can do. So we got off on a little side tangent here, but the U.S. debt, it ties into KASPA a little bit, because KASPA is doing its own thing, but also if there's more liquidity coming into the market, that's more liquidity that can filter down into KASPA. If you're looking at this bull run, so you can see that we're almost at $34 trillion in the U.S. national debt. So they're going to have to turn the money printer on. So personally, I see that the Bitcoin spot ETF could happen in January. You're going to have the halving, whatever you want to call it, in around April. They're probably going to have to lower interest rates, and they might even turn the money printer back on. So you just got to be patient with KASPA. Things are looking good. Overall, even if the miners are selling off to pay for their new computers or the new mining rigs, the increased hash rate is bullish, because you need a hash rate that's going up. Otherwise, you'll die at the vine. It's still, look at this. I mean, Doge has been around for a decade almost. And it's showing that, this new guy in KASPA is still holding that number 2 position in terms of the 24-hour revenue generated. So I think that's bullish. I think it's going to be a good year personally. Now, I know that governments are going to do whatever they have to do to try to protect themselves. But when you look in the Warren Davidson, SEC. So, there's these things right here. The Warren Davidson, Republican, he wants to fire Gary Gensler. Would be a great time to fire Gensler and pass the SEC Stabilization Act. Tom Emmer is a long-time Republican. He's not, let's see, where's this at? Somewhere he's just on, I think he was, Tom Emmer backs bill. So when you look, Tom Emmer backs bill to kick Gary Gensler SEC. So when you look at the United States, everything's not so simple. Even like right here. So the United States is going to use Grayscale. So also, if you get all these big Grayscale and Fidelity, sometimes they're partnering together on stuff, but other times they're competing. So you have all these entities that are also going to be competing on the ETF market for that money. And you have, big companies and institutions that would be more apt to buy an ETF than actually self-custody. They don't want to have anything to do with self-custody. And for the average person, you wouldn't want to send your Bitcoin to the exchange. You just want to hold it in your own wallet if you're actually hot on it. So LA Ballin, great information. Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, just covering KASPA and then also going a little bit of talking about this government wants to steal Grayscale $600,000 or 600,000 Bitcoin. Basically saying that Barry Silbert is getting taken out and eventually they're getting control of it, and that they've already basically put Binance in its place and everything's going through Coinbase, which the United States can control the government. And so maybe that'll happen. Maybe they'll do something like with gold, where they made it so that you couldn't own gold. So like under executive order of the president, all persons are required to deliver on or before May 1st, 1933, all gold coins, gold bullion, and they priced it like at $25. And then once they got the gold from everyone, they raised the price up to $30. And then obviously Richard Nixon got off the gold standard in 1971. And so, but there's another point too. The difference between gold is that gold is not very transactional. It's hard for people to transact locally abroad. You could be someone that just has $1 million, which doesn't make you the richest person in the world. And that'd be hard to transfer $1 million of gold somewhere else compared to $1 million of Bitcoin that could be somewhere else in 10 minutes with final settlement in 60 minutes. So I believe final settlement 60 minutes to 2 hours. So, and if you look at gold, the gold chart art all time, let's see. I think we can just go to maybe gold price all time. And this one is going back. I mean, it doesn't go back all the way. At least it's this chart right here. Just gonna zoom in there a little bit. But you can see overall, since Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, gold has went up and it has went down, and it did go sideways in the 80s through about 2005, and then it started shooting up. But you can look at it went up a lot. So they haven't completely manipulated that down to completely nothing, and it is hitting new all-time highs. So it's going to be exciting times. I personally think that anything's possible. I do think that if the walls close in on crypto, it's going to be more at the end of this bull run, or it'd be more on the next bull run, or in between in the bear market. Would the walls could close in further? But if you have crypto in your wallet and you can remember the 12 to 24 words, you're good to go. And I think that there's going to be a lot of liquidity. And when you have the biggest capital markets in the world, people aren't going to be, the U.S. Let's see, percentage. They're not going to be putting their money in something that's completely, like bonk. Eventually they might, but with the world's deepest capital markets, the U.S. makes up 42.5% of the global equity market capitalization, outpassing the next closest economy. Well, I guess this one shows the European Union. I saw something else that showed, okay, here, China. Okay, so I saw something different the other day because it said, okay, it is 4 times bigger than China, but it's about 4 times bigger than EU too. So China and EU are about neck and neck. And so Hong Kong, which you can actually you could basically throw that in there with China now, Canada. So it shows this is where most of the liquidity is at. And a lot of those bigger companies are going to put something into. And that doesn't mean that. And then there's a lot of those guys that are bad guys. You can look at the banks, they're getting lots of fines and they're doing lots of shady stuff. But when a lot of liquidity pours in, and then some guys are making money and moving that into altcoins, you don't know what's going to happen in this bull run. I agree. Government always just wants a piece of the pie and wants to keep us as poor as possible. Yeah, they want control. But then there's also, I think when you look at the rich bankers, there's different factions of the rich bankers. And then when you look at the government, there's different factions of the government that want different things. So it's tough to know exactly how this is going to play out. But I do think that this year there's going to be a lot more liquidity going into Bitcoin, and then that'll trickle down to altcoins. So I think we just got to be patient. And, they might try to ban self custody some point. Hopefully, there's enough friction in the US government that doesn't happen. I know that there's a lot of people that, on both sides of the aisle, I think, that are against that. So I don't think it's a complete partisan issue. So obviously, the central banks, the bankers want to try to control the monopoly they've had on the money. So there's a big war going on right now about decentralization and money in the United States. With the national debt getting higher and higher, they're going to have to, it's like $1 trillion now to service that debt. So that's where we're at right now. And your friend Somi made some great points in here, and I can see some of that coming true, but you can see some of it too. The banks are already trying to clamp down on some banks, like I think Chase in the UK. You can't even send your money to crypto exchange, so you have money in the bank that you can't even send anywhere you want to. So it's not even really your money at that point. And the bank can also basically only keep 10% of your money and use the rest of the money to invest or lend it out. So system's broken. That's why a lot of people believe in crypto. And regardless of that, there's just going to be a lot of money made in crypto in the next 2 years, in my opinion. And I do think that you will see something like what happened with the gold ETF. And I think there's going to be a lot of liquidity. I think there's differences with gold. I think that right now someone can just be at their house and easily just buy $10 worth of Bitcoin and put it in their self custody. And I don't think it's easy just to buy $10 of gold and put it in your pocket. So the retail investors, if they can hodl their own Bitcoin and put it in their self custody, that's a lot of power. And I think we just got to be patient with KASPA. Right now, the price action is looking good. You can never get too excited when it pumps, never get too down when it goes down, and just keep letting the Rust development and getting to 10 blocks a second, and let the proof of work keep doing its thing. And I think everything will work out. So that's I got. Just a quick video talking about kind of what's going on in KASPA a little bit today, and a little bit about maybe what could happen with the Grayscale or any Bitcoin ETF. I think it's going to be a bullish year, my friends. Let's enjoy this bull run. Stay smart. Don't fall for the scammers. Never send anyone crypto expecting to get twice as much back. I know you're not going to, but if you got any friends that are new, give them that warning. Stay safe out there. Let's enjoy this bull run. Thanks for watching and have a good day.